Late summer, 479 BCE, a dry plain beneath Mount Cithaeron, just outside a small Boeotian town called Plataea. On one side, Mardonius, left behind by Xerxes with the finest troops the Persian Empire still has in Greece. Well over 100,000 men, Persian spearmen, Median archers, Bactrian horsemen, and Greek cities that chose to fight for the empire rather than against it. On the other side, something that has never existed before. A single Greek army, drawn from more than 20 cities, that spent the last decade fighting each other as often as they fought Persia. Spartans, Athenians, Corinthians, Tegeans, all standing in one line. Lose this, and there is no second army, no fallback position, no next alliance to rally. Greece ends here, and the Greeks know it, which is exactly why for 11 straight days neither side attacks. Let's talk about the longest standoff in ancient warfare, and the single collapsing night that turned into the battle that broke the Persian Empire's hold on Greece. Here's the problem the Greek commanders are staring at. Their infantry is the best in the world at one thing, standing shoulder to shoulder and refusing to break. But that only matters once the fighting starts at close range. Out here, on open ground, the Persians don't have to get close at all. Their cavalry rides in fast, fires, and rides out before a single Greek spear ever reaches them. It's not meant to win the battle outright. It's meant to bleed the Greek army slowly, cut their supply lines, poison their water, fray their nerves, until the alliance falls apart on its own. So the Spartan general Pausanias does the only thing that makes sense. He holds the high ground and waits. Let Persia come to him. Mardonius, watching from the plain below, is doing the exact same math from the other direction. He doesn't need to win a pitched battle. He just needs to make staying on that ridge unbearable. Both men are playing the same game. Only one of them can win it. The first real blood comes almost by accident. Persian riders keep probing the Greek line, hunting for a soft spot, and they find one on the western edge, a stretch held by troops with almost no cover. Arrows rain down, shields split. The line nearly buckles before archers rush up to plug the gap. In the middle of that scramble, a Persian officer named Masistius pushes his horse in too close. An arrow catches the animal in the flank. It rears, throws him hard onto the dirt, and before he can even get his footing, Greek soldiers are already on top of him. He fights like a man who knows exactly how this ends if he stops. Blade after blade skids off his armor. It takes a spear driven up through a gap in the scales to finally put him down. When word spreads that he's dead, the Persian cavalry actually pulls back. And for the first time in this standoff, the Greeks let themselves believe they can win this. Mardonius doesn't share the panic. One dead officer changes nothing about the map. The Greeks are still stuck on that ridge, still drinking from one spring, still one bad week away from falling apart. He's right to be patient, because he's about to close the trap without throwing a single spear. Days pass. No grand assault, just erosion. Small cavalry units start showing up everywhere, except where the Greeks expect them, on the mountain roads, along the supply routes, circling the edges of camp after dark. A grain convoy gets caught in a narrow pass and never arrives. Mules panic and bolt. Wagons get abandoned on the road. Messengers stop coming back. Foraging parties vanish, and nobody goes looking for them anymore, because going looking means riding into the same roads that just swallowed everyone else. Then, on the 11th morning, it reaches the spring. Gargafia is the only clean water the whole Greek army has left, and when a detail walks down to fill their jars, they find Persian horsemen already standing in it. Mud churned up to the ankles. Archers posted on every approach. No fighting. No need for it. The message is simple. This water isn't yours anymore. That night, the ridge is full of 30,000 men who haven't had a clean drink in a day and a half, and everyone in that camp can feel exactly what Mardonius has been building toward. He was never trying to kill this army. He was trying to starve it out of its own position. Pausanias calls the commanders together in the dark, and it isn't a war council. It's damage control. The spring is gone. The roads belong to the Persian cavalry. Every hour the army sits still, it gets weaker. There's really only one option left on the table. Pull back tonight, quietly, to better ground near Plataea itself, where there's water, and the terrain favors infantry over horsemen. It's a good plan on paper. In practice, it means moving more than 20 separate contingents, each with its own commander, its own habits, its own chain of orders, across open ground, at night, without alerting an enemy army camped less than a mile away. One army could do that. A coalition might not. The order goes out anyway, because there isn't a better one. Fires banked low, packs shouldered, move before dawn. It falls apart almost immediately. The center sets off first and simply keeps going. Past the rally point, past the fallback line, straight through toward Plataea, dragging itself completely out of contact with both wings. On the left, Athenian officers are still arguing over contradictory orders, while their men stand frozen in the dark, half-formed, waiting to be told whether to march or hold. And on the right, a single Spartan commander named Amampharitus flatly refuses to move at all. Spartans, he says, do not turn their backs on an enemy camp. Pausanias argues with him for what feels like an hour, while the rest of the army keeps drifting apart behind them. In the end, Pausanias marches the rest of the column out without him, betting that pride will pull Amampharitus along once he sees his own men leaving. It works. Barely. He catches up just before sunrise. But by then, from a Persian scout's point of view at first light, there is no Greek army left on that ridge. Just 3 separated, disorganized bodies of men, scattered and exposed across open ground, which is precisely what a retreating, defeated army looks like. Mardonius doesn't hesitate. For 11 days, his priests have told him to wait. This morning, watching the Greek line come apart before him, he decides the omens can catch up later. He gives the order to advance. Cavalry first, infantry right behind it, the entire Persian center rolling forward at once. What had been a siege for 11 straight days becomes, in the space of one sunrise, a full pursuit. And the Greek army, mid-collapse, has to become a real army again in about the time it takes the dust to reach them. 2 fights break out almost simultaneously, and neither side can see the other through the haze. On the west, the Spartans and Tegeans take the full weight of the Persian advance completely alone. Archers behind a wall of wicker shields pour volley after volley into their line, while cavalry harasses the flanks. Pausanias won't give the order to charge. The sacrifices keep coming back wrong, and he won't move without them, even as his men are dying standing still, shields raised over their heads. The Tegeans break formation first, and go in without waiting. Almost immediately after, the signs finally turn favorable, and the Spartan wall goes forward too. Not a charge, a controlled, grinding advance across open ground under fire the whole way. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the field, the Athenians run straight into a wall of shields they weren't expecting. Thebans and other Greeks who chose Persia's side. It's the ugliest kind of fight there is. Greek against Greek, nobody backing down, for what feels like forever. In the center of the Persian line, a man on a black horse keeps appearing and disappearing through the smoke, holding the whole formation together through sheer presence. It's Mardonius, close enough to the front that his own troops can see him directing the fight in person. Then the black horse goes down and doesn't get back up. It spreads through the Persian ranks almost instantly, not as an order, just as a feeling. Men start glancing back toward camp instead of forward. Officers shout over each other. The line that was pushing forward a minute ago is starting to fold in on itself. At almost the same moment, gaps start opening in the Theban formation across the field. A few men peel off first, then more. Within minutes, the whole Theban line is falling back toward its own city, and both Greek wings are pushing forward together for the first time all day. What's left of the Persian army runs for the fortified camp and jams itself through the gates all at once. Officers trying to rebuild a defense out of wagons and whatever's standing. It almost holds. The Spartans hit the barricade first and can't get through it. Then the Tegeans find a weak seam in the wall, and it gives. Once the wall breaks, there's no fight left inside, just a crowd of men with nowhere to run, trapped between wagons and each other, while Athenian troops break in through a second gap and close the pocket from the other side. By the time the sun goes down, the army that spent 11 days slowly strangling the Greek position on that ridge no longer exists. Persia is still the largest empire on earth after this. It doesn't collapse. But it never again sends an army to conquer mainland Greece. Athens stands, Sparta stands, and for one single unlikely day, a coalition of cities that could barely agree on anything held together just long enough to end the war. The story doesn't stop at Plataea, though. Subscribe, and I'll show you what came next.